folks. So it looks like James Comey is going to turn himself in today. Welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I'm from my hotel room, the Hobbit hotel room, where everything is about chest high for me. And it's like I'm living on the floor. I'm living on the floor. Folks, all right, so this is going to be an epic podcast. We got Juan O Savin coming on in just a few minutes. We're going to be talking about James Comey. James Comey being indicted. What's next? There's a lot of stuff in this. There's a lot of moving parts here that Juan is going to explain. We're also going to talk about the defiance of Trump. Trump is now defying Benjamin Netanyahu. The line has been drawn in the sand. Why? What the hell's going on here? Everyone thought Trump was in his back pocket. No, not so. Are we saving Israel for last? We're going to get into that with Juan as well. So all of this stuff is transpiring right now, right after the turning point of Charlie Kirk. Folks, you can Venmo me, 𝗵𝗻𝗀1977, 𝗵𝗻ROD1977. If you have a question for Juan or for me or whatever, I'll also answer it on Venmo. 𝗵𝗻ROD1977. Also, folks, When the Lights Go Out on Amazon. That's a book I wrote on my iPhone in just a month's time. I wrote that entire book on my phone, and I got tendonitis in my thumb. Also, my mama's book, The Mexican Mix. The Mexican Mix, folks. And you know, all I ask is for an honest review on all of these things. It means a lot to her. It means a lot to me also, folks. So thank you very much. Ringside with Nino. The next one's coming up in a couple, not this next Wednesday, but the one after that. Also, the Generals tent. I may have a doubleheader Generals tent this month in October due to everything happening so fast, escalating. I'll have Charlie Ward, mate. I might bring on Charlie Ward. And then also Juan O Savin, if he agrees to it, for another Generals tent. And then also the Ringside with Nino are fire. This last one was amazing. Everyone got their questions in. We had a great roundtable, about 100 people that were there. Black Sheep family, everyone expressing their concerns and really giving ideas and thoughts. And it's just our tribe, folks. It's the tribe, and it's fun to do. We do it twice a month. All of us get together, and you know, it keeps me. It's kind of like everyone tells me I should go to an AA meeting, but I feel like this is better because I'm with like minds. I'm with my tribe, and we all just have a good time. Folks, also, Nino's Corner.tv is fire. Juan O Savin interview is going to go up today. I'll put that up. I did it with him last night. I'll be putting up this morning on James Comey, a more extensive podcast on this situation. And I have a lot of great guests. 𝗬𝗂𝗶𝗹. I just did the great podcast with General McGregor, or Colonel McGregor, and so many more folks. So 𝗬𝗏𝗏 General 10 is up there right now. So there's a lot going on Nino's Corner.tv. The news before the news, baby. Yeah. All right, folks, you might want to turn it down and turn it up. Yes, I'm going to do it again. I guess I have to do this every time. You know, every morning show, at least, it's my calling card. It's my trademark. Turn it down or turn it up. Here we go, baby. Yeah. Coming at you live from the apocalypse, folks. Yeah. Payback. Yeah, payback. I was going to name this broadcast Payback. So former FBI Director James Comey is scheduled to surrender to federal authorities today, Friday, September 26, 2025. My sobriety date. I'm 5 years and 9 months sober today. So what a great little gift to me. He faces 2 felony charges, making false statements to Congress and obstruction of justice stemming from the 2020 testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee regarding the FBI's Russiagate investigation. This is huge. But first, folks, before we get into this with Juan O Savin, how's your health recently? Are you guys paying attention to your health? Because I'm all about that. It's all about preventative measures. All right, so we patented Mr. Gundry's, Dr. Gundry, to share this information with you. Would you believe me if I told you inside your pantry right now is one of the healthiest foods on the planet? Yep, it's true, and it's not some weird, trendy superfood. Spoiler alert, it's olive oil. You probably used it to cook with, but there are countless ways to use olive oil to help yourself look and feel younger. You do look younger. For example, olive oil is a natural way to help you achieve a more youthful appearance. Besides helping you look younger on the outside, it's a fantastic tool for your insides as well. According to Dr. Stephen Gundry, a famous cardiac surgeon, a nutrition expert, and health advocate, you should get as much high-quality olive oil into your daily routine as possible, whether it's taking a shot of it daily or keeping a bottle of it in your bathroom medicine cabinet. What kind of olive oil is best for your health? Well, any olive oil can give you some benefits, but if you're looking to get the best results, it matters a lot which one you pick. The olive oil industry is huge. You can tell by the number of olive oil brands you see at the grocery store, and you can bet they're not all made with the consumer in mind. And many brands may even cut corners one way or another to increase profits. When Dr. Gundry came to this realization, he was appalled. But some olive oils are so powerful, it may only take a few teaspoons a week, or tablespoons a week, to see these incredible health benefits. So how can you tell between an olive oil that could be a health booster and which one isn't up to par? In an effort to answer that question, Dr. Gundry has decided to take a stand and release personal research immediately. Click on the link in the description. All right, folks, let's get into this. The James Comey indictment could be much more serious than any of us really expect. James Comey is set to turn himself in today. But has James Comey cut a deal with the FBI and DOJ to sell out other people that are higher up from him? I'm going to talk to Juan O Savin right now and talk about this. He's going to elaborate on all of this. James Comey is scheduled to turn himself in today. That means heads are about to fall. So let's remember, we are now in the season. We are now in the season of false flags and incoming attacks. This is when this type of stuff really picks up. So what we know right now is multiple news outlets report that on September 25th, 2025, Patel declassified or released aspects of the FBI leak investigations, codenamed Arctic Haze. Now, Arctic Haze, some commentary indicates that he delivered memos to Congress earlier in 2025 that relate to Arctic Haze. What is Arctic Haze, you ask? Here's what Arctic Haze is. Arctic Haze is reportedly the code name for an FBI leak investigation. The investigation is said to have looked into unauthorized disclosures, leaks, or classified or sensitive information, particularly involving contacts between James Comey and journalists and communications via his associate, Daniel Richman. According to one commentary source, the investigation was opened August 1st, 2017 and closed September 9th, 2021. What does Kash Patel's release of Arctic Haze mean? Well, Kash Patel, who has held a role in overseeing or declassifying documents tied to intelligence and investigations, has declassified documents related to the Arctic Haze leak investigations. The declassified documents are said to link James Comey to false statements made before Congress per reports. Specifically, media reports claim that the released Arctic Haze files suggest Comey authorized or was aware of media leaks through Richmond or had involvement in steering narratives regarding Russiagate investigations. However, the commentary also points out that the investigation did not find conclusive evidence to criminally charge Comey or Richmond with leak-related offenses. So, as this transpires here domestically, Trump has finally drawn the line in the sand with Israel. Everybody has often said President Trump is in the back pocket of Israel, that Benjamin Netanyahu has been pulling his strings. But now this breaking news, President Donald Trump, Thursday, will not allow Israel to annex the occupied West Bank, offering strong assurances that he'd block a move that Arab leaders in the region have staunchly opposed. This is huge breaking news. Is this saving Israel for last? Many twists and turns from Trump recently, folks. I know we've all seen this. We're like, what the hell's going on here? He's turned against Russia, and he's now going to back Ukraine and NATO. And now he has just defied Benjamin Netanyahu, a big no-no for a U.S. president. We are now at the turning point at this deep state war. Was Charlie Kirk the final draw? Was Charlie Kirk the turning point? Did he symbolically represent the turning point? So now, as the indictments begin to roll forward, with the first being James Comey, Trump stands firm against Israel. The war is on, folks. All right, Juanito, are you there?
Hey, how you doing there, bro?
I think there might be a little bit of a delay, hopefully not. But Juan, thank you. You were with me last night as well. We did a YouTube video last night and a Nino's Corner.tv, which I'll put up today. Juan, it's always great to see you. Or look at your boots.
And of course, when you go up and down through the various satellite links through all the various agencies, it does develop a little bit of a delay. So it's not the link to the satellite; it's through all the other agencies and their computers before it gets back out. So anyway, everybody should be on board right now and listening in. So anyway, go ahead, Nino.
So, Juanito, here we are. This is big news. I mean, it's a huge morale boost, but a lot of people are saying, it's a Biden-appointed judge. It's no big deal. He's going to get off easy. What do you have to say to those people that say, Comey, this is all just optics. He's going to get off with a smack on the wrist?
Well, certainly as things have gone over the many, many, many years of these types of things, you'd have to say that they're correct. Nobody, the very high up people don't generally get taken. It's optics. And in D.C., the courts are excruciatingly liberal. So I would say I wouldn't argue with those people that much in this setting on these specific charges.
So Comey faces 2 felony charges, making false statements and obstruction of congressional proceeding, stemming from his 2020 testimony about the FBI's Crossfire hurricane investigation. Are we going to see Brennan or anybody else get indicted within the next week?
Well, this had a horizon on it of next Tuesday within this kind of a setting. So if you were going to do anything, you had a horizon on it. Things that Brennan was involved in or may have been involved in don't have that same horizon. So this was a specific testimony on a specific date before Congress, and it had a 5-year horizon.
So what are we looking at right now? I mean, we're going to see, you've always hinted towards a big arrest in October. Are we going to see a lot of the stuff, and I know we got to be kind of vague on YouTube about this, but we're going to see a lot of the stuff regarding 2020 come out during this time with James Comey, or is it all going to be Russiagate for the next 3 to 6 months and then go into 2020, or is it all going to come out at once?
No, there's some stuff and 2020 stuff. 2020, it's not over yet.
Jesus.
But for the moment, it is Russia, because that's the oldest stuff. And it goes back prior to Trump coming into office in his first term. And a lot of the mischief that went on to try to block him first from being able to be the nominee and then to win the election, and then to damage his ability to govern in his first term. So all of that's where this started. Those are the big crimes. And we start there and then move forward to the election stuff that is more current, 2020 and 2024.
So what about what he's doing? So we see James Comey's been indicted. I'm sure many more names to come. What about what he's doing with Israel? What can you say? What is he doing right now with Benjamin Netanyahu? He will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. That's a huge no-no for a U.S. president.
Well, remember, I told your audience months ago that when Trump almost 2 weeks, Trump would not take a call from Netanyahu. He was going to Saudi Arabia, a historically large arms deal there, went next door to Qatar and did an arms deal there, which had huge ramifications because it takes away in large measure this, oh, we're threatened, we're threatened, we're threatened. If Saudi Arabia has, the jets and the radar systems and the protective systems from the U.S., those systems, you don't pick them up or drop them on a dime. You're talking about minimum 20-year systems, 25, 30, 50 years, because all of your staff have to be trained in those systems. You need the spare parts, you need the upgrades, dates. You're talking about a relationship that goes on for decades and decades. And that what, Saudi Arabia can attack Israel with our systems, we can't stop it. Of course, they wouldn't last because they wouldn't have this part. Other getting that Saudi money, the Russians, the French, the Chinese. So it tied Saudi Arabia to our military and political and State Department system for a very long time, and Qatar. That ticked off Netanyahu. And you have to understand that Netanyahu's been walking around, this whole thing, Israel's controlling America. Well, where does that come from? Netanyahu himself has been walking around telling everybody that they control Donald Trump. And
he's been on video. He's been on video saying this, and it was an undercover video recording Benjamin Netanyahu speaking this stuff, saying this stuff out loud. How easy it is to control America.
Well, let me add this: the largest lobbying group in Washington D.C. Forever, for 50, 60 years, has been the Israeli lobby. So, that's not being said in a vacuum. But then the second largest lobbying group has been the Saudis and Arabs. So there's been a fight going on for control of America. And a bunch of lawmakers, legislators that were all over in Israel the other day and being filmed and seen. There's all sorts of stuff there that, if you look at it in total, is actually very disturbing, very upsetting. And I've said political Israel for the Christians out there, and even the Jews and the Arabs. Political Israel, this Israel that exists in the Mideast today, is a creation of some money people going back to the Balfour Declaration, who got an agreement to buy up the land in the Palestinian district that was held by the British, and then to turn it into a nation, which it did, with a UN agreement in, the Balfour was in 1917. The understanding it was a nation was in 48. UN confirmed that, or 47. People declared it in 48. UN recognized it. So this has been going on for quite a while, but it's really kind of a political creation at this moment within the shadow of the British system. That's hard for people to get their minds around. And the Brits claim the right at some point in the future to put a sovereign on the throne in Jerusalem, if they so choose to do. What would be a circumstance where they'd accept a Brit on a throne in Jerusalem? That's pretty wild.
That would kind of be Antichrist stuff right there, right?
Yeah, I would say that that's an accurate statement. And the other thing you have to remember, within the Masonic system, Albert Pike, in his book Morals and Dogma, and by the way, the Queen supposedly sits at the head, when she was alive, of the Masonic system. We don't have that same information on King Charles, but it's probably the same. And in the Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma, he says that it would be necessary, in order to create a one world government led by their cult, would be necessary to have 3 world wars. And the third world war would be a religious war between the 3 great Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Muslims, Muhammad, and Christians, and that after that war, they could then merge the world under this, worldwide government and religion, eliminate all religion and have just one religion. So, are they going to pull it off? Well, there's certainly a lot of momentum to do that. Remember, the largest nation in the world is hidden in plain sight, and that's the British Commonwealth. So, sun never sets on those Commonwealth nations going around the world. So there's behind the scenes, there's this undercurrent of people working together through numerous organizations. It's not just one. With all their various degrees, it's not 33 degrees, it's 360 degrees. Coordinating their efforts, moving towards a one world government. That's why you have the Davos crowd, Club of Rome, Atlantic Society, Council on Foreign Relations, Knights of Malta, Knights of Pythias. All of these different groups are very powerful in the background. And then I bring all of that back to Comey. Remember, the problem that we're having over at FBI is that it has been hijacked. FBI operations have been hijacked by Senior Executive Service, the largest agency of government you haven't heard the name of before. Every time Cheney had a fake heart attack, they'd laugh about the fact, well, I was running the shadow government. Well, that's Senior Executive Service. And so Comey came out with a video after the indictment and said that he'd be found not guilty. Bring it on. I'm ready to go to trial. Why is he so cocky on that? I actually think that he's not exactly wrong in what he's saying there if you get into the weeds on this a bit. He was operating under higher orders. And within the context of continuity in government, which is what Senior Executive Service says they're doing.
Look at this one, Comey. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. I'm not afraid. And I mean, he's trying to become like a martyr type personality. He's trying to be, he's very cocky. He does not feel like he's going to go to jail. This bothers me, Juan. The arrogance bothers me. I mean, he's not afraid, and I hope you're not either. He's acting like he's taking a stand. He's taking a stand against fascism, against a dictatorship. He's trying to play the hero here. This bothers me. This really does bother me. Is he going to get off easy?
Well, I might shock a lot of your listeners. Within the way he views this and the group around him. Remember, he's had 8 years to prepare himself for this exact moment. This is not, surprising him. Long before his congressional testimony, he knew there was things that he was doing which were very sketchy. And I've said it on the show last night that we did. I think he's actually worked a deal. And what's the deal look like? Before he's done, he's going to claim that he was totally justified because he was answering a higher authority within a command structure, within continuity in government, and the president. He did things that he did at the request of the president and with executive essentially authority overriding, saying that you can essentially lie or deceive or whatever because Trump was an agent of the Russians, got into power through fraud in the election, and therefore not a valid president. And so he's going to refer to Obama and to Senior Executive Service possibly. They're sketchier. But, Obama, look at Trump. Trump has been very, very firm that Obama is going to face justice. Well, what's he going to face justice on? The things where he directed people like Comey and Brennan and gave them a pass to essentially lie and to coordinate an anti-Trump operation to defy Trump the opportunity to govern during his presidency. And then also to proceed with attempts at prosecution under known lies and fraud related to the efforts of Hillary Clinton and the people around her to create a falsehood that Russia was, Trump was colluding with Russia to get into power.
So a lot of people in the chat right now are saying nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. Bullshit. He's going to
Well, hold on.
I'm just telling you what the people are saying in the chat.
Okay, but they need to, let's grow up. Nothing is going to happen. That's bullshit. Hold on, Nino. Let me answer the question. Let me answer it. Stuff is happening. They make a move. We make a move. This is not business as usual. So don't get into that, it's just the same thing. That is not true. Nothing here is comparable to prior administrations. Don't compare this to Whitewater. Don't compare this to Watergate. Never in your lifetime, even though there was something that happened in '84 where we called a bunch of our general staff in, nothing like that is going on right now. This is something different next Tuesday. With all
okay, hold on. Let me get into that. Hold on. Hegseth orders rare urgent meeting of hundreds of generals and admirals. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered hundreds of the U.S. military's generals and admirals to gather on short notice and without stated reason at a Marine Corps base in Virginia next week, sowing more confusion and alarm after the Trump administration's firing of numerous senior leaders this year. What the hell's going on here, Juan?
Well, it's not just a large number, it's everybody. They're all being brought in. Some of them are going to get walking papers. Other people are going to fill those gaps. We're going to get, look, a lot of those people are sycophants of, Biden groups, Obama groups, Bush groups, Clinton groups that are within the military that are very anti-Trump, that would block or hinder things that are about to happen.
So he's going to give them their walking papers right then and there, because it says 800 generals and admirals spread across the United States.
Well, I've told your audience before, that's about how many we have. We have 44 four-star generals. Hegseth and Trump have both said we're going to trim that fat. We've had repeatedly, as I meet with friends who are general staff and flag officers, them say that this is just ridiculous. We're so bloated, and it so confounds and confuses the system, and they're going to trim some fat. And then they're going to also read people in on filling some of those gaps. And beyond that, prep for what's about to happen.
What's about to happen? What's about to happen, Juan? What are we getting ready for?
Well, we have huge threats against America on the mainland, the American people. Trump is moving back to protecting us on home soil. There's huge warning signals that numerous folks have been talking about, not just for the last couple of weeks that have been public with some of the people talking about briefings that have happened, but actually for all of this administration, even going into last fall. Remember, we had drones flying all over the country, but primarily the East Coast, last summer, all the way up through the election and the inauguration, looking for something. They weren't, from outer space. They weren't from people we don't know. Those were U.S. Government operations through various entities that we have here in the U.S. that were doing tracking, background mapping in anticipation or looking for nuclear materials or even a weapon. And Trump himself has been very clear about that. They're looking for the nukes. I've told your audience numerous times, we got some loose nukes out there. The question is, what's the real number?
So is that going to be the next? Is that going to be the next scary event that we're worried about? Is it going to be? Could it actually happen, Juan? Could a dirty nuke go off in New York City or Chicago, or would it happen in a Democratic hellhole, or would it happen in a place like Phoenix, Dallas? Where would it happen?
Well, I mean, who am I? This could be anywhere. If I knew, I'd be talking to people other than just your audience. Nobody knows with precision where something like this could happen, and there's always fakes. There's always deceptions that happen in any kind of war. So expect the unexpected. When Oklahoma City happened, who would have expected that at that exact moment, that day, that location? Were you surprised when the World Trade Centers were attacked? Yeah, there were some people in retrospect that weren't surprised at all. But to the majority of America, 99.999% of the American public, you were shocked. And so, again, part of this is what's a false flag and what's a rogue group that may do an attack and you don't see them coming necessarily. And nation state level stuff, there's some serious threats. And so rather than just protecting and having our people everywhere else, in fact, part of this is that President Trump is moving our defensive posture to protect here at home and project power here at home, both having military in reserve here as well as overseas.
Well, is that why Pete Hegseth is? Do you think that's another reason he's calling in these generals and admirals, is because we're expecting something here on the home front, and we need to have everybody that we trust in line, and we need to get rid of the people we do not trust? Is that why he's doing this?
Well, I think there's some trimming going to occur where there's people that have not even been silent about it. They're very anti-Trump within the military ranks, and it's damages. Look, if you're in any of the services and you hear command level people defying the president or saying things that are derogatory to the commander in chief, can you let that stand? And plus, if we're everywhere but where we're the army, the military exists to protect America. So we're not going to be everywhere quite as much. We're going to be shifting our weight to protect here at home. A threat exists right now that is not outside our borders, it's inside the border. President Trump is appropriately responding to those threats. Will they succeed? The people that want to come do damage, Antifa, who we now designated as a terrorist organization, the Iranians. Look, much of this threat revolves around people close to them. So are we just going to stand there and watch? This is a different president. And even to those people saying nothing's going to happen, excuse me, all sorts of stuff is happening.
This has already been.
Well, hold on a second. Let me just finish this one statement. I want to finish this. That Comey may or may not skate through this somehow. I don't think he skates through it cleanly. I actually understand where Comey's coming from at a certain level. If I want people to think about this for a second. If you're the director of the FBI, the president of the United States calls you aside and says, "This is what I know or believe, and I need you to be with me on something." The guy's there because the president nominated him. Congress agreed to it. If he says, "I need you to do this or that or the other,"
but he took an oath to the Constitution, foreign or domestic. I mean, he should know. If he knows in his gut that this is wrong, and he's creating bullshit, then he's got. Come on, that's treason.
Okay, so now let's go that route. That's there's nothing wrong with that question or statement. I agree with the persons that would say that. And especially when Comey also had the information and knew for a fact that the allegations of the Russia stuff came from the Hillary Clinton campaign and from people around her. And it wasn't just a little bit of information. He knew with precision all of that. So that would change Comey's position, not from just obeying the president, but colluding with President Obama to pull the wool over the eyes of the American people and to damage the people's representative in the elected president of the United States, President Trump. An active operation to undermine his ability to govern. So while Comey may use the defense that he was operating at the behest of Obama as president, ultimately that may come unraveled if he had other information that disproved those statements and was in fact part of the operation to pull the wool over the eyes of the American people. I don't think Comey comes through this cleanly, but to a jury, they may be able to cloud it enough and have questions enough. Ultimately, in all of that, I believe the real question that we as the people should be asking is SES, Senior Executive Service, who really is running the FBI, who has all the senior leadership on the payroll. You know, if you're working at FBI, you get a paycheck. And then as a member of senior executive service, you get an additional paycheck, which involves other government services. Much of the time, you don't even pay taxes on that money. Are you actually working for the FBI, or are you working for the higher agency that's adding on to that? You're working for the higher agency, doing the best of what? The shadow government. Even Obama himself being able to hold power and have all these people at these various agencies do his bidding isn't actually just him, it's senior executive service. And that before we're done with all of this, we're going to have church committee type hearings. What happened in the mid-70s, where all the family jewels of CIA were brought out. We're going to have similar hearings, this time after SES, Senior Executive Service, who claims the right to control everything in America in a continuity and government sense, and is challenging the military authority, which occurs over in NORAD from an attack by an enemy external.
All right, Juan, let me cut in there for a second.
Yeah.
So I have I have a question here from Nemo. You remember my friend Nemo?
Yeah.
Also, but breaking, James Comey's son-in-law, Troy Edwards, has resigned from the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of Virginia after the indictment of former FBI director. Also, it says here, James Comey's indictment case has been assigned to Judge Michael S. Gnatchmanoff, a Joe Biden appointee. So obviously I already said that earlier, but Nemo's question is this. Before arrests take place, is Trump going to clean the decks of the war with the Treasury and the Federal Reserve? Will Trump announce constitutional money before the arrests occur, or will it be after?
Let's not get ahead of our skis. There's a lot of things going on here. And by the way, you know, Roger Stone, who wasn't even guilty of what they charged him with, all the FBI people showed up there to grab him. They made a big spectacle of it. You know, the news people were pre-warned, be here so you can get film and all this other stuff. But Comey, you know, there's no embarrassing arrest, perp walk. He's getting to turn himself in today, go through the booking process. They'll all be very nice and sweet to him. All of those people from J6.
This is pissing me off.
Well, all the people that were J6 people that they went through it, you know, many of them. Okay, I'll turn myself in. You're going to charge me? All right. They just showing up. They didn't have to have the spectacle. But Comey, his FBI is out, you know, doing nefarious stuff, but, you know, he gets the pleasantries. There's plenty of people that have not gotten the velvet glove treatment when it comes to turning themselves in and being arraigned. It's very annoying to a
Well,
lot of people who have gone through that process.
what about DOJ leaders advocating for charging Trump critic John Bolton this week as well, sources say? Senior Justice Department leaders are advocating for a charge against President Donald Trump's former advisor turned critic John Bolton this week, according to two sources familiar with the investigation. So currently the prosecutors think they could bring a stronger case by the end of the year against Bolton over the mishandling of national security documents rather than pushing for a change at this time. So who's next in your mind, Juan? I mean, does it look like it's going to be Bolton?
Well, it may very well. I'm not going to try to over second guess it. These are all within the Justice Department system. And the real arrests that will make this real to most people, including the people, it's the same old blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, I'm not going to argue with you over for the moment. It's not until you actually see people go to Gitmo that it will really actually change people's perspective. Because yes, I absolutely agree. If you're in the Justice Department system and going on trial in a DC court, it's a pretty rigged game. And your likelihood of getting anything more than, a velvet glove treatment, it's unlikely they're going to go against any of the main characters in this in a hard way. The one thing you have to keep in mind is that this is not limited. Just because Justice Department has charged with certain things with Comey and other people, as we get deeper into this and additional information is brought to the fore, they may very well find out that this isn't going to be limited to Justice Department actions. It's going to be non-Article 3 courts, because many of the matters involved here are treason. And just because you've been charged in the Justice Department system does not preclude later being charged and sent to a tribunal for war crimes, for
also,
treason.
There's some other news coming out. Kim Kardashian's in trouble. Artist Ray J says he's working with federal authorities on a massive RICO investigation targeting Kim Kardashian and Kris Jenner, describing it as worse than Diddy. He adds, I'm going to be on the news every day from here on out. The feds is coming for Kim and Kris, and it's worse than P. Diddy. Did Kim Kardashian and Kris Jenner help Hillary Clinton spy on President Trump? In light of the news that Ray J claims he's helping the FBI with a RICO case against Kris Jenner and Kim Kardashian, I want to remind everyone they may have been working for Hillary Clinton to set President Trump up. Have you heard anything about this at all, Juan?
Yep.
Okay, so what can you elaborate on that? They're saying it's worse than Sean Diddy Combs. They're saying it's worse than P. Diddy.
I think that's true. I think that's accurate. Okay, let me say something kind of bizarre here for a second, just to push the envelope for a moment. Imagine 9/11 and all the theater that went on in 9/11. Now, the Senior Executive Service has been putting on all sorts of frauds and false flags, and has permission to do so for quite some time, and coordinating things, not just 9/11, Oklahoma City, and a dozen other things that are out there. But they, within, for example, just let's limit the conversation for a moment to CIA. CIA has a far greater involvement in Hollywood and in the entertainment industry than most people have even begun to conceive of, tied all the way back to China, and helping with the acquisition of Hollywood assets, and conversion of those, control of those assets over to China. This is way bigger than most people have really understood or conceived of, because that means that China has a bit of control in how it's presented within our entertainment. and involvement. It's not just the money. It's about the programming of America, MK Ultra type stuff, subtleties. Okay, so now if at some level there's collusion between the intelligence agencies, CIA, FBI, and senior executive service in trying to shape how the American people think and the world think about certain what's acceptable in entertainment, what's you know, how do we view China as a threat or a friend, communist ideas, etc. That attempt to shape how we think is much bigger than most people can possibly imagine. But now let me add this. Imagine if the connections within the 9/11 narrative, which is not what has been presented to the American people. We were all given a total falsehood on how 9/11 happened, who was involved, the way those buildings came down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the Hollywood aspect in numerous things, generating images of demons in the smoke.
It was a giant
hold on. Well, yeah, hold on a second. But let me go one place here. I have a specific thing I want to put in people's minds. The entertainment managers that book acts, that do various things. Imagine how unlikely it would be just a happenstance that on the day of this massive false flag event to control the mindset of the whole world, this huge theater to control the mindset of the whole world and make a precedent for then passing the Patriot Act, which was already in place, that changed security measures, airports and people, and the ability to go look at people. Look, arguably, what was done against President Trump with the Russia stuff couldn't have happened if you didn't have the Patriot Act in place that allowed all of the surveillance systems, 𝗫𝗍, courts, etc., to do what they did in controlling the way that politicians work in Washington, the way power is expressed. But think about this. The control and interaction with Hollywood for this theater at 9/11 was so great that it even included taking one of the most iconic, well-known world figures in the entertainment industry and putting that person on one of the top floors at one of the Trade Center buildings on 9/11 at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Michael Jackson.
Think about this. They being the people that set up this false flag event, wanted all eyes, including the Hollywood eyes, to build this out into something so much bigger. And when you talk about hand of God things, why wasn't Michael Jackson there that morning? All of his staff, everybody around him, his agents, all the other stuff had this whole thing set up for him to be there. He was talking with his mom about his career, his life, and the people around him, and how he just didn't believe they actually were there to be with him and help him. They were false. Very private conversation with his mother that went into the wee hours of the morning because he was so upset. He knew he had an act that was getting ready to come back out, and he couldn't trust people around him. Well, he may have known it in his guts. He just didn't know exactly what was going on, but they were setting him up. Somebody took the deal. Somebody got decided, who can we bring here that really helps to make this event even more gripping worldwide, bring all of Hollywood and the funerals and the terror and the horror and the remembrance every single anniversary, and it's Michael Jackson who was killed, Michael Jackson who died, Michael Jackson when the building exploded, Michael Jackson was there. Here's the video of Michael Jackson as the plane hit the building. Over and over, Buckwheat is dead, Buckwheat is dead, which is a Saturday Night Live episode, by the way, just so you know. That is what was intended. And because Michael talked to his mom into the wee hours of the morning, he just couldn't get out of bed. He just couldn't go to one more thing. And Hand of God thing wasn't at the World Trade Centers.
That's insane. That's
okay. But again, now you think about it.
That's crazy.
Think about this, Nino. What would that have added to this worldwide event, and the ability to use Hollywood even more than it already is? So the three-letter agencies and the people trying to set America up in their false flags, which 9/11 is not what you were told it was.
Right.
They have hands. They have reach into Hollywood so deep. They wanted to take out one of the top people at that time within the system and use them, use their image, use everything about them, in this huge event.
I'm going to be closing out right now. Can we take some super chats and let me read some what the fuck news? Alrighty. So in what the fuck news, owners of Radio Shack, Pier 1 Imports, and other brands accused of running a $112 million Ponzi scheme. So a pair of e-commerce entrepreneurs who bought a number of well-known retail brands, including Radio Shack, Model Sporting Goods, and Pier 1 Imports, out of bankruptcy, are accused of running a Ponzi scheme. I didn't even know Radio Shack existed anymore. The Securities and Exchange Commission on Monday accused Alex Mayer and Taya Lopez, founders of the Miami-based rental e-commerce ventures, of defrauding investors out of an approximately $112 million. Through their holding company, Mayer and Lopez acquired distressed brick-and-mortar companies in order to turn them into successful online brands. Dress Barn and Linens and Things were also among their acquisitions. REV acquired Radio Shack in 3 years after the nearly century-old electronics chain failed for a second bankruptcy. See, I knew Radio Shack was failing. Radio Shack first filed for Chapter 11 protection in 2015. I haven't seen a Radio Shack in years. Model Sporting Goods filed for bankruptcy in March 2020 when it also announced it would be closing all of its stores. REV bought the Models brand's name and assets in August 2020. Pier 1 Imports, which still exists as an online store, declared bankruptcy in early 2020. REVB acquired its trademark name and assets later the same year. So the SEC suit alleges that between 2020 and 2022, Mayer and Lopez made material misrepresentations to hundreds of investors about the bankrupt retailers they had acquired. For example, to entice individuals to invest in their acquisitions. They said their portfolio companies were on fire and that cash was flowing in strong. Geez, I haven't seen a Radio Shack in years, man. I don't even know if those things are still around. I used to love Radio Shack. I mean, there's no point in any of that anymore. All right.
Well, Radio Shack, you know how Radio Shack made its money? The big deal that Radio Shack did that was unique was whenever you came in and purchased something, in order to complete your purchase, you had to give them your mailing address and contact number. And so they developed this huge mailing list that they could then sell to other people. This before the laws and everything else were really the way they were. They were the first to really do it effectively. So they made as much money off their mailing list, even more money off their mailing list than they did after on store sales like that. They could do leaders where they even lost money and get people in to get their name on the mailing list. It was very hard to complete a sale or transaction with them and not give your contact, mailing address and all that. So that was their big claim to fame.
Let's take
and
some
by the way, just
questions.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna take some super chat.
Well, I mean, how many people had a TRS-80 computer as one of their first computers? And I
Yeah.
was at an event, just a 30-second story. I was at an event with Radio Shack present and a bunch of college students looking at everything. And they had that, a lot of your people in your audience might remember, they had this thing where you had a rocket ship lander on the moon, and you'd have to carefully fire so you wouldn't crash into the surface of the moon. And so that half dozen guys that did their demo and what the numbers were, and they had like a record, the least fuel used and the fastest time to get to land. And I won it all because I just waited till the rocket ship the lander was almost on the surface of the moon, then expended huge stuff, and I got a soft landing. And it was one time, hadn't seen it before. It was just a guess on my part, a lucky guess, but I beat the numbers of everybody else just like by, cut it by half or something. And all the Radio Shack people were like, "Oh, wait a second, hold on, stop, hold it." I showed how to do it. It's a programming thing, but it was just funny that that happened. So, but yeah, they did. They got a lot of people started understanding personal computing and like that. So that's where a lot of your audience probably got to start. People in their late 60s, early 70s, 80s.
All right, let's get to super chats. All right, grab a cup of coffee and a cigar and put your feet up for a bit. Been a busy week. Thank you, Michelle Christians. Yeah, I need to do that. Absolutely. 𝗀𝘂𝗶𝗹 super sticker. Thank you so much, Kelly. Suzanne, Diane, Juan, when we get to the other side of this, will you come on to Cruising the Coast annual October 10th day classic car show along the beach, Gulfport, Biloxi, Americana, thousands of classics and great folks. Would you do that?
Yeah, just which question is which one would I take? I got a lot of fun ones. Convertible, be obvious, but yeah, I'd love to. I mean, I somewhere in here, you have to have hope that we're going to get through all of this intense trauma, that we're going to get to go to, not back so much, but to the America that we all dream about, where, I just want to work on my hot rod. I want to go drive the tractor. I want to.
I don't know, Juan. I think you'd be too bored. I think this is right up your alley.
Well, actually, no. I enjoyed so much just doing my own work in the engine room on the boat. It may be work and you'd cuss and, grimy or smelly or whatever, but at the end of the day, I loved having all my power tools and my wrenches and, go buy the latest, newest gizmo thing to make it easier. I do enjoy that. I do enjoy doing my own work, my own hands.
All right, let's.
But we're not there yet, and
let's get to the next question.
I have high hopes. Yeah, go ahead.
I got the maids knocking on the door. They want me out of here. All right, Juan. Boards always indicate Podesta indictment would kick this off. Is 11.3 not the first marker? 𝗀𝗵𝗱𝗀 asked Josh Reed, field, whatever. I don't know what that says. 15, 25, 26, 34. Boards always indicated Podesta indictment would kick this off. Is that true?
Well, you've got 11.2 and 11.3, and there's a number of 11s in there that are all important. But yes, the understanding was there's a Podesta side of this that triggers other stuff. But which other stuff? Is it the Russia stuff? Well, Hillary's right in the thick of that, and that's a reasonable call. So I wouldn't argue with that logic.
All right, next question. I got to hurry up here. The maids are waiting out the door.
Oh my gosh, some of them they're pretty. They got forearms that you don't want to freaking.
They're waiting. They're looking at me.
That's right. They do a lot of work, and they're in shape, man.
Un momento, por favor. All right. Next question. Bono, 𝗦𝗍𝗶𝗹 Bono needs to face justice. He is guilty of sin for endless capers, one being Chester Bennington. Really, Bono? I don't know about that. I met Bono in person one time, a long time ago at church. Dave Barlow. Juan, could you explain more about what actually took place with Trump's meeting with British royalty Kate?
There's some questions who's running the world, okay, and who's going to be allowed to, and it's a horse race. You know, Netanyahu would like to think he is. King Charles would like to think he is, and the people around him. And you know, Trump, Melania didn't curtsy to anybody. I can guarantee you that. So we'll see how this continues to build out. Trump ain't taking no guff from anybody. You know, so those people that want to portray Trump as, you know, weak and get along, go along, and he's whatever. Well, he might go through some formalities just for courtesy. At the end of the day, he's not taking any guff. Not for himself, by the way, but for the American people. He will not make us look less or accept that. Just like Netanyahu with his trash talk, I run Trump, and by extension then run the world, blah, blah, blah. He might have got away with that with prior leaders. You're not getting away with that with Trump. Watch.
All right. Well, I gotta close it out here. This is Charity. This might be unimportant, but there's so much confusion right now, and I trust and respect Juan's opinion. So can we just trust Erica? Can we trust Erica Kirk? I certainly want to. There's so much disinfo right now. Yeah.
Hold on. Let me help you out here for a second. There is zero question that something is wrong in this whole sequence of events over at Turning Point. And that just, let's not easily, readily dismiss that there's something wrong. I'm sorry, I want to be a good guy. I want to go along with all the other stuff. And it's a great event for America, you know, in the wake of what happened with Charlie Kirk. But was what happened there what we have been told or presented? An easy way to start to correct some of the problems would be for the FBI to release all the videotape of the time before, not just during or after the shooter on the roof. And the audio reports about the way that the sounds moved and recorded on numerous devices inside that area do not match the reported location of the shooter. There's all sorts of anomalies.
I think she's asking more about. He's asking more about Erica Kirk. Can we trust Erica Kirk?
Well, let me just say this: if the origins of the event aren't quite what they're purported to be, everything else, look, a foundation's wrong. Everything built on top of it is wrong. So I've got problems. I don't want to mince words on it. There's problems there within what we're being presented. And remember, I was a very significant contributor to Turning Point and early before a lot of others showed up. I believe in the whole concept. And so it's not like I'm saying that, you know, as an outsider. I loved the fact that there's so much work going to the youth, the young people, and Charlie Kirk was so articulate, so beautiful in what he presented. But again, I mentioned something earlier. I mentioned something earlier with a specific name a few minutes ago, and it's involved in this, and it's not SES. And what's that got to do with Erica or the operations? I'm not comfortable that we're getting a straight story so far. And hold for a minute.
Hold on. Are you saying Erica Kirk could be involved here?
It's not so much, you know, she's obviously involved. The question is what's being presented to us true and accurate from all parties involved.
Okay,
who they are and what they're doing and all sorts of things. And I do have valid concerns, and I don't think that we should be too ready to dismiss those concerns right now. There's something wrong with what's being presented to us.
Hold on. You're saying that she could be involved in this?
Hold on, I didn't say that. I said there's something wrong with everything. I don't know what, that we have enough information, except that if the foundation here of how the event happened, what occurred during the event, the people, etc., is as off as it is, and it's off. It just is off. That's reality. Something is wrong.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
Now, everybody involved that's trying to build that out, I have to kind of go, okay, does that make sense? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? And numerous players, and I'm sorry, Erica's in that mix. I mean, they got beautiful kids.
what?
I'm stressed. Well, I'm just stating a fact. You know, there's something wrong. I don't know what it is precisely
Right.
when you add it all up. I just know that it doesn't add up right now, and I don't want to be too ready to just pig pile in and yeah, when there's something that's wrong with what we're being presented. So I'm going to
Wow.
reserve judgment, take a deep
Wow.
breath, and you know, I don't know what it is precisely. I just know
Right.
that on numerous fronts, there's stuff that's being said that isn't correct, accurate. I'm not buying it.
Wow. Okay. No, I mean, I know that much, but I wouldn't think Erica has any
I don't
hand.
know that there's anything. I don't know that there's anything that Erica's doing wrong or anything like that. I mean, you know, who wants to? You know, this is pretty early on. You know, I
Okay.
want to give respect to the family and everybody. The dust hasn't settled yet.
Right.
Okay, let's
Okay.
give people chance to go through whatever. I do know that you know, there's people that do stuff naively because they just don't know or don't realize what they did. There's some things that have happened that I'm not comfortable with, and I'm not going to just readily dismiss it as though
Okay, so we're
there's.
not pointing fingers at her. We're just saying
I'm not
somebody.
pointing fingers at anybody. I mean, you asked me a question. Somebody in the audience asked me a question. I'm not pointing at one person. I'm pointing at everything that happened there in its totality. And I don't know exactly how or who, uh, what, but there's a number of things going on in this whole sequence of events that don't add up. The
Okay.
preparation for that day, the choice of the location, the people involved directly, the narrative on exactly how he was hit, and the events around it. And I have a number of people that were right there. So I'm not
Right.
talking in a vacuum, and I have concerns. And so
You were the
I don't
first
know
person.
everything there.
You know, you were the first person to tell me that he passed before any news syndicate said it or anybody did. You were the first one to tell me. One, I got to get going. I got to get the major author. Is there any more super chats, Alex? Okay. Jennifer Adair, was the movie Snake Eyes part of the Looking Glass? One, I don't.
Yeah, it's a fun movie.
Yeah. Lee A. Bryan, Comey snitches on O, then Podesta snitches on 𝗏𝗏𝗃? Question mark.
They're all they're all interrelated.
All right.
So
Next one.
yeah.
Is there anything specific we should be looking out for false flag wise, Juan?
Well, I think it would be foolish to say anybody knows exactly what's coming, except for the players themselves. There's warnings. You know, just if you say a specific spot, other people may drop their guard. The reality is there's probably numerous. It's a full, total assault potentially on numerous fronts. We had fiber connections that control 911 calls in several cities that were cut a couple days ago. Right. There's been people that have done that previously in other locations to apparently see how we would react and map our responses and where the supplies come from and the personnel come from to do that. So one of the main things this current thing is the initial attack. It's secondary attacks on people coming back to repair infrastructure or first responders and the locations like
Right.
hospitals where first
Right.
responders would take victims. So there's bigger problems here than
Right.
just even the first primary attack. And it's not necessarily accurate to call them all false flags. If you
Right.
have an event, there may be a false flag, there may be actual events. In this situation, real terrorist attacks,
Okay.
real people's lives are going to be on the line. Real people will die with what's coming in these attacks, unfortunately.
All right, that's it. I gotta go. These maids are waiting for me outside the door. So, all right, folks, we're out here. Juanito, thank you. Can I get you on Nino's Corner .tv later today, Juan? Another
Sure.
follow up? Is that possible?